right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I have a very special guest. He is the champ for the CrossFit Games neuromuscular division for this year's games. His name's Brett Horchar. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. How are you, Tom?
Not bad. I thank you for doing this last minute. Like I said before, I do appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
I think how we connected was you actually started following me on Instagram, and then I was like, oh wait. So I started looking at your profile. I'm like, oh, okay, that's real cool. So I definitely want to get your experience for the games and everything. But before that, I kind of want to talk about, prior of you getting MS and like what your childhood was like. Were you very active and kind of all the way leading towards, getting MS and then winning the CrossFit games?
Yeah, absolutely. So, through my childhood, I was super active. I did all the sports. I tried them all, like every kid does. At 5 years old, you tried baseball. You realize that, you don't want to pick grass all the time. So you don't do baseball anymore. You play your soccer, right? And then you realize that, I'm just running around. I'm not actually kicking a ball. So you don't do that either for a little bit. But I stayed relatively active as a kid up until, like middle school time, picked up basketball for a couple years. Never grew past 5'8", so therefore basketball was kind of out of the question once it stopped growing.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went into soccer because all my friends played soccer. Of course, they played it since they were 5. I had joined in at roughly, that would be 13 or 14. So a little behind on the foot skill, but, put in the work and had a lot of fun with that. So I stayed relatively active overall. And then leading through high school was when I just started lifting weights just to add on a little bit of size. I played goalie through soccer because,
Okay.
once again, not very good with the feet overall. So
Same here. I was a goalie too. So
oh, no way.
yeah.
No way. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. How many years did you play?
I played 4 years in high school. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I lied. 2 years in high school. Then I transferred over to another school, and then I played football like the last 2 years, and that was it.
Okay. All right. Did you ever do any like indoor tournaments or anything like that?
I played like men's leagues and stuff like that. So it's pretty much
Okay.
like my sister, she played in like a co-ed league, and so she's like, hey, we need some people for like an indoor thing. And like I haven't touched a
Yes.
soccer ball in probably at that time, I think it was like 6 years or maybe a little bit like earlier than that. And I was like so out of like I was so out of not I was not in the right space. I was like the feet skills were like non-existent. I tried to headbutt into the goal. It was a nightmare. So, but that was like the last time. And now my 7-year-old's playing soccer, so I'm kind of like playing with him around, just trying to get back the skills. So just to kind of
There you go.
make sure he doesn't get the ball and he gets pissed off. So
I like that. Sounds like a solid strategy there.
yeah.
Well, it's actually funny you mentioned that though. Like I played soccer for years and then didn't play for a bit, still stayed super active. And then I also did an adult league. They opened like an indoor place and I tried that out. What happened was my shins were on fire. Like after one game, I'm like,
Yeah.
and my shins and legs are now on fire. Like, what is happening? So we played through the first season. It was a new place. It was fun, but they couldn't keep the teams going. So we were like, probably not going to invest in the long run. But, it was kind of the same thing. Like your sister was like, oh, we need to get people together to make this team,
Yep.
So that was me. I decided to be the captain and take that responsibility of
Oh,
like, hey, I need people or else we can't play. Like, this isn't going to work.
yeah. Yeah. That was me too. When I played in a summer like basketball league for like the hospital I was working up in Massachusetts. And it was just pulling teeth, just trying to get people to play. And it was
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, if you don't want to show up, don't show up. I like, we'll play with 4 people. Like, I don't care.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and then
Exactly.
like,
I will play goalie and defense.
yeah. And it was like, I'm not going to do this again. It's not worth it. And plus like people at work took it way too serious. And I'm like, I'm just here to play and have a good time. I don't care. So
Yeah, that was us. As we had like, there was maybe 6 teams in the league. We were hey, we just got some guys who work out together and wanted to play soccer and against the people who were like, oh, we're here to win.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, we're coming down.
Yeah. Yeah. That was me playing lacrosse too. Like there was like dudes that like trying to relive their glory days. And I'm like, bro, like, I don't know. Just stop.
No.
Just stop doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was it. I mean, it's still fun, but you're like, come on, we're just trying to hang out. We're not trying to crush each other in the face. Like we're not anymore.
Yeah. So speaking about you lifting weights, so
Right.
what was your Like, were you doing like typical like bro splits, or like what were you doing at that time to just try to lift weights during the soccer season?
Yeah, so kind of a combination. That's what I had was the splits where it was just like, all right, Monday's gonna be chest, triceps, shoulders. Tuesday's back, biceps. And then Wednesday's gonna be legs. And then just kind of take a day off, go through that cycle again. I actually, that's where I first started getting regimented was before high school. Like before I would go to school, I would get up at 4 in the morning. I would go into my parents' basement because we had like a Craigslist garage back.
Nice.
Your 20 pounds, silver bar, your plates that are just made of like rock, steel, whatever, that they just smash together to make it into a 25-pound plate, whatever.
Yep.
I'd work out for about an hour, hour and a half, shower, get ready, go to school, go to soccer practice for 2 hours after, get home, homework, eat as much food as I could, and then just pass out. So that started back in high school with that routine of just lifting through all those bro splits, which it was cool. But in the back of my mind, there was something that was like, even though I'm working out, I don't feel fit, and that's
Yep.
like the difference between like those bro splits and functional fitness is that in the end, if you're constantly just pumping your muscles up and not actually getting them to go through a functional range of motion, you start to feel like you're not even fit, which is not the point,
Yep. Yep. Even like walking up a flight of stairs, you're like, oh my gosh, they're getting so winded. You're like, what is going on here? Like, this shouldn't be happening.
Absolutely. I mean, because at that point through high school, I had a job as a server assistant at a Longhorn Steakhouse. I was going around just like buzzing tables. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. Like, I can't even walk around this restaurant anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. So did you play any sports in college at all, or did you go to college?
Yeah, so I actually never went to college.
Okay.
I tried it. I thought I knew what I wanted to do. I guess to rewind and take a step back, in my parents' basement garage gym, during the summers, I would actually invite my friends over, and I had a big whiteboard. I would write down the workouts, and that's where I almost got like the first hint of being a trainer. So
Okay. Very cool.
enjoyed teaching them like these little things. We would work out together. I also had like a heavy bag and a speed bag. I would teach them actually some boxing as well. So that was kind of cool just to get the dudes together during the summer and just hang out and work out together.
That's really cool. So like, so did you realize like earlier on, like when you started doing the program, like, hey, this could be a thing, or what was going through your mind when you're doing the program? Was it like, just want to get swole for the summer?
Honestly, yeah, it was a combination of just getting swole for the summer. And I was like, yeah, there's no way this is a job. Yeah, this is a real job, like you go through school and they're like, research these jobs, find out how much they make, get an idea of what you want to do. And then you go ahead and look up trainer. And at the time when I was in high school, it was like a trainer makes 25,000 a year. That won't work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay, so I guess I can't do that as a job. So that was kind of my first like derail of maybe that's not the right path for me.
yeah.
But down the line, even though I fought that for years, trying to do what society said I should do to get the good job, to pay the bills, and do what you got to do, I finally gave in. I was like, all right, boom, we're gonna get a trainer job because this is what needs to happen. I tried community college. I went for a physical therapy assistant because I was like, okay, kind of works with working out with people, but you're more on like a medical side. That should be better money.
Mhm.
I went through a couple semesters of community college, submitted a package because you had to get the grades to get accepted into this program. Was 1 out of 30, so that was great. Got accepted. I was going through the first year, and then I felt like a nurse, and I was like, uh-oh. I was like, this is not what I expected.
Yeah.
For 2 years to find out that I don't like what I'm about to go into. So I finished that semester, and thankfully my professor was like very understanding when I had the conversation with her that it just wasn't what I was looking for. Which I had a good connection with her as well. She was a very good teacher. I did well with the classes. It just wasn't the right fit. So finished that out, at least got the credits, what I had to do. And that was kind of the final step of like, okay, now what? Because I'm not in community college anymore.
Hmm.
The point of going to college for 4 years for exercise science. At that point, when you really just need a certificate, it's like, which one do you do? Which path do you take there? So we went with the certificate. And that's actually around that time was when I got my CrossFit L1.
Okay, very cool.
I started coaching at a box, and just kind of did that like 2 days a week. You get paid like $15 a class. It's not making the ends meet by any means there, but it was still it was fun. Like it was just a side gig to do for fun, to teach people what you love about. And that was kind of my first little dabble of being a trainer on the side. Super cool, but at that point in my mind, it was still like, yeah, this is just always going to be a side gig. There's never going to be like a main job with that.
Yeah. So when did CrossFit come out? When did you actually realize like, hey, CrossFit's a thing and this looks pretty cool? And like, when did you kind of want to dip your toes into it?
That's the funniest part, is I resented CrossFit at first.
Me too.
I did not, you're the bro science guy, like you're the guy doing your pumps, your splits and everything. You don't want to be like, now I do CrossFit, because then all the people who do their biceps every day, they're like, oh, you do CrossFit. And you're like, no. But I ended up doing Spartan races, actually.
Okay.
The Spartan races, and I would make circuits of almost like EMOM style, which at the time I didn't even know what EMOM meant. I would just say, all right, on this minute here, I have to do like 10 power cleans. Then I'm going to go ahead and run a 200 meter in the second minute. And third minute, I'm going to row for another 250 meters, like whatever it may be in combination. And I'd have people in the gym walk up to me because I didn't have a box. I had a gym that I went to, relatively big. It was called Legends of Pittsburgh Fitness and Performance Center that was near my hometown. It's kind of out near Tarentum area there. And it was a really great gym. They had everything you needed. And they had a CrossFit-esque area that if you were a member and paying, you could use it if they weren't running classes. So that was kind of cool there. But yeah, I had people walk by. They're like, oh man, I didn't know you do CrossFit. And I was like, please. Interval training. All right, there's a difference between CrossFit and interval training. I'm not doing CrossFit. And so that was when I first would deny that I was ever doing CrossFit, until, I would do the Spartan races. And it was almost just like an elongated workout of the day. You're carrying sandbags, you're, carrying these giant pails full of rocks, you're climbing ropes, and then you're running for anywhere from short side 3 miles to 15 miles. Not that, I swear, if we ever see anything like that in a competition, I know I have a 4-hour event, we'll see what happens. But
yeah,
that was kind of my first dip into CrossFit, until I finally got to a CrossFit box that opened up. It was brand new. They had a student rate that was like super low. And I bought into it, and I was like, wow, I've never had someone else give me workouts, and this is kind of great. So that was where it all started there with CrossFit.
Okay, very cool. And what year was this when you started?
That was back in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 16 there. So, relatively healthy person. I kept my fitness in check, did everything I could. And then, 2 years down the road, 2018, I got diagnosed with MS there. So kind of how that happened was, I had my first job as a full-time trainer at Planet Fitness. Yes. The pizza on Mondays. I actually went back to work on those Mondays so I could eat dinner. It's like, you're going to give me free pizza? I will be there.
Yeah.
But I was walking around work, and out of nowhere, my right leg, I had to start physically thinking, pick up, extend, put down, pull. Like with every single step, it looked like, you ever seen Forrest Gump?
Yeah.
You know how he walked and how he ran, and that's exactly what I looked like. I looked like I was trying to move my leg, and it was the hardest thing in the world. Finished my shift out that day, and I went to the doctor, and they started talking to me like, looks like it might be sciatic based on what you're feeling there. I had this weird heated sensation on the left side of my body. Right side of my body started going numb, and I couldn't really feel how to move it. And they're like, it must be your sciatic nerve. I'm like, I mean, I've had sciatic issues before, things get tight down there, but it's never been anything like that. So left, thank you, doctor, I left with what I got. And unfortunately, it slowly progressed and got worse. Next thing you know, I'm at my parents' house. I was living at home at the time whenever this did happen. I was 21 years old, and I'm walking around the house, hobbling around the house realistically. And next thing you know, like one misstep and I fall over and I'm on the ground. And I don't know if it was like a stress reaction or what that finally exacerbated it into what it was, but I couldn't move my right leg. My right leg was just shut off. I had like claw hand. I don't know if you ever heard of claw hand, but that going on with my right hand as well. And I didn't know what was happening. I remember laying on the floor and thinking, cool, we're here now. I can't move the right side of my body. What do we do from here? So you start, you like roll over super hard on the floor. You start pulling yourself across the floor to get to your phone, because the first thing you want to do is call somebody. And it was St. Patrick's Day. So, trying to find somebody in like 3-4 o'clock when everybody's doing their thing on St. Patrick's Day. That was a little difficult, but called my parents. They were out with some friends just hanging out, is what it is. And they were like, oh, we know these people. They're going to be like at home. It was my one friend, like family friend. So she said, call them, have them take you to the hospital. They came over, took me to the hospital, and they ran so many tests. It was very extensive. And, all the nurses and everything were really weirded out by it because they could feel my body physically radiating an extreme amount of heat on one side, and my body was super cold on the other. Like there was nothing happening. It's really hard to tell what MS is until you physically go into the brain scan and see on there, right? Because MS, essentially, for those who don't know, MS is when you have lesions, whether it be in your brain or in your spine. And what these lesions do is that they cause a dysfunction from the brain to the end of your nerves, right? At the end of your nerves, you have your myelin sheath. This myelin sheath is a little piece that goes over the nerve that when it goes into the muscle with the neuromuscular junction, that's where it sends the electrical signal and says, when my brain says, bend your knee, boom, sends it down, bend your knee. Those muscles kind of work in that pattern. Now, with that myelin sheath being weak and deteriorating, the electric signal from your brain going down to that muscle, it's not as instant, or it might not even work. There's some days where stuff just doesn't even turn on. And really aware of this during things like training, during just everyday life and what's going on. Because when you have a sensory overload and your muscles and brain aren't connecting and getting that instant reaction through the electrical signals, that's when you see extra fatigue kick in. You see your body start to shut down when it overloads and it's not actually able to send and receive those signals there. So I was in the hospital, though. Going back to that, I got 3 CAT scans, 2 MRIs, and then a spinal tap. Yeah.
Jeez.
Ringer, and it wasn't even like your normal CT scans. They were like, oh, this one takes this dye, so like I'm getting injected with a dye for the first one, and like, oh, this one you need a different dye so we could try to see this. And I literally just felt like, I don't know, like they were just constantly pouring stuff into me to try to figure something out. But in the end, it's actually funny with the way that you talked about earlier with giving the kid the high five, being like, oh, you're part of the diabetes club, or the mom the high five there.
Yeah.
They didn't do that for me. It was very, very subtle, where we asked the nurse, we're like, do you know what's going on? Like, did the MRI say anything? She's like, oh yeah, you have multiple sclerosis. All right, we'll see you later. I was like, wait, what does that even mean? You just diagnosed me with this disease, I think, because I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
And you just leave just like that. So, it took a little bit before they brought a doctor up there, and they actually showed me the holes in my brain, which, makes a lot of dark humor. It's really great when people ask me. I can be like, well, there's holes in my brain, you see. So really makes for a great joke there, laugh at your own pain type deal. But yeah, that was kind of where it all started. And that's where the journey began. You're sitting in bed, like, I remember physically, like, I asked my mom to leave the room because at this point I'm a bit emotional. And it took me 5 minutes or less. I swear it was like the quickest pass through of emotion where you say either, all right, this happened and it sucks. And I got to figure out what I'm going to do every single day to prevent it from sucking. Or you can lay in this hospital bed, accept what's happened, and just not do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I hope my actions I've done have shown that I took the first route.
Yes, yes, yeah. But like, what really, what gets me aggravated? Like, I've been in the nursing, like, I've been in the medical field for like 14 years before I became a medical recruiter, and like, there are some people in the medical field that have like no common sense or no, like, they have no filter.
Bedside manner.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah,
Bedside
yeah.
manner. Yeah, no filter. Like, they'll just like blab out and just like the most random stuff, and it's just like, that's not really appropriate at that time to talk to that person like that. So you may want to consider something else. Like,
Yeah.
one example I have, this guy, I don't know what his issue was, but like, he was like pretty much bedridden, and the wife has to like clean him, wipe him on, like, if he makes a mess
Oh,
of
wow.
himself, like everything.
Yeah.
And so the doctor's like, I completely understand what you're going through. I understand what you're talking about. And the wife is like, you have no idea what I'm talking about, because
Right.
you're not in my situation. And so I told that doctor that at the time, she was a resident, so she was like a kind of like, I think she was like a second year or something like that. I'm like, you do not say that to anybody.
Yeah.
Never. Never. And she's like, I will never say that again. And I'm like, yeah, you learned real quick not to say that stuff. And I learned real quick I was at a meeting, and they said, you never say that word, never say that sentence ever. Like, I'm sorry you're feeling this way. I'm sorry. Like,
Right.
yeah, you don't even like, you don't say, oh, hey, you got MS, and just walk out. Just say, hey, I'm gonna have you go. Like, I'll get the doctor in here to kind of talk to you, and
Right.
and let you know what you have, instead of just saying, oh, you got MS, and walk out. You can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the nuttiest thing about it. My mom and I literally looked at each other like, what does that mean? Like, what is it? It's like, oh, the doctor will be in. We're like, oh, okay, like that's fine. we're not worried or anything. It's not my health or anything important.
Yeah. So did you stay in the hospital for a couple of days, or how long were you there after you got diagnosed?
Yeah, so I was there for a week. Uh, I went through just heavy treatment as far as that goes to work on getting the muscles moving again, and was on a walker. That was kind of my biggest thing. Is I then was going from this guy who was working out every day, played sports, took care of his body, and was running Spartan races, and now out of nowhere, he's using a walker to figure out how to live life again. Not even work out, like just figure out what am I going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So learn how to walk again. It felt like dragging my leg behind me a lot. So I would actually get a nurse, and like the other nurses were great. The ones that were there, like checking in on you, seeing how you're
Yep.
doing, were awesome there. Even got to write like little cards if you wanted to put like a nurse high five on like the notice board. A couple of those, because there were some that really stuck out to me. But I would ask them, like, watch me walk, like tell me if like I'm dragging my foot, like what I need to do to get my hips aligned, whatever it may be. Because I would see a physical therapist as well. They brought one in to kind of adjust things for me, and they told me those were certain things to look for. So I was very thankful that the nurses were willing to kind of hang out with me a little bit and watch me walk to make sure that I was doing it right. It was a slow process. I think my leg literally lifted like, it felt like half an inch off the ground every time. Like I was swinging it with my whole right side of my body, trying so hard just to move it. I'll never forget when they would do the screening every day, kind of see where my strength was at. My left leg, like I'm lying on the bed, left leg, it goes whoop, and then my right leg, it's like just do everything in my power to lift it, and it just doesn't move at all. And I'm like breaking a sweat trying to lift my right leg off of the bed. But yeah, we went through a lot of treatment with that. They gave me a resistance band. So I went back to some bro things when I was in the hospital. I would actually sit down out in the hallway on a chair, tie my rubber band around something, do some curls on the chair, like wrap it around the back, do some chest press. Just you're in the hospital, what else are you gonna do besides eat and walk, or kind of walk for my case,
Yeah.
So we kind of worked with that a little bit, and just slowly but surely it got a little easier to walk. I would take some brave steps and not use my walker and have like a nurse right next to me. Man, did that get tiring.
Oh,
Like,
I
when
can
you're
imagine. I can
little,
imagine that. Yeah, definitely.
it's like you realize it's been so much time in my life spent working out, and now I'm getting out of breath once I lose this walker and have to walk on my own again. Like my right leg really takes that much energy from me.
Hmm. Yeah.
But same thing, you stay on track, you just practice it over and over again. After 7 days, I was there for 7 days, I was able to walk. I definitely still wasn't at full strength by any means, but my hand went through some occupational therapy to get rid of that claw hand, and worked with a occupational therapist with some like putty type deal just to get those muscles moving in the fingers again.
Yep.
But once I got out of there, I thought things were a lot better. And the very next day, I went back to the gym and I found out, wow, we still got work to do.
Yeah. So how long were you at like the physical therapy throughout the whole process when you got MS?
So, that was kind of through that week there, I was with the physical therapy. They recommended I do physical therapy post being in the hospital. So once I got out there, but I told my mom, I'm like, I don't want to pay $25 every time, to go to this physical therapy when I have a decent knowledge on working out myself. So she said, okay, well, do me a favor. Let's go to the physical therapist. And if we do anything that's outside of your realm, that's like, oh, wow, I wouldn't have thought to do this to work on balance or walking, then we'll stick with it. If it's all things that you relatively feel like, okay, I can do this, I got this figured out, then I won't make you go. So
Hmm.
went to a PT session, practiced a couple things on like some squishy foam boards, practicing bouncing. The one that was most interesting to me was standing on one leg and closing your eyes, because your eyes visually, they let you know if you're balanced, right?
Hmm.
When you close your eyes and now you don't see if you're balanced, it actually makes you focus even more on balance. So, I'm like, oh, okay, like let me stand on one leg, close my eyes, like whatever, sure, whatever you say, doc, and I do it and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? I can't balance. So it definitely was a little bit more of an experience, trying to learn from literally ground zero after doing all the things that I had done up to that point in life, to be humbled, to say that you have lost one of the most basic abilities of life that you've had for 21 years. And now you got to start over and figure out everything again. So it was really, really humbling to a degree. And now it's like you look at every day and think, I can walk, like I used to
Yeah.
take it for granted. And once that got taken away from me, you're like, wow, I can't believe how almost like unthankful I was that I was just able to walk. So every day now I kind of look at it like that, is that if I get out of bed and I can walk, it's a pretty darn good day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So did you ever get frustrated throughout the whole process? Like just like maybe like I don't know, maybe a couple minutes of like a fit being like F this, like this sucks, you know. Have you ever had any of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was back at the gym, right? And I was trying to do things. There was a turf field. I remember I would run and I quotation marks around that because it was me giving my best to run. But as I'm going through, I would run where I could, and then I would turn back and try to go a little faster. I would turn back and try to go a little faster. And that sensory overload I talked about when it was too much, I would literally get this jolting pain down my spine, and then it would really hit hard through the hips and legs. And that's when I knew when to stop. And I was,
Mm.
you've got to be kidding me. Like I feel like I am now at a moderate jogging pace and my body is telling me to stop. Or I would hang from a pull-up bar and I would be like completely uneven like this because I couldn't grip my own body weight anymore. It was certain things that you're just like, holy heck, like I gotta literally start from ground zero, and it's frustrating. It was frustrating, but what I kind of kept in my mind was, all right, this sucks now, but if you do every little piece, like it's a puzzle, like a 1,000-piece puzzle, and you're putting one piece together at a time, eventually it'll start to build the picture and it'll start to come together. The image will be there, the ending. Well, not that there's ever an ending to this, but the goal to say is going to be starting to come back into sight there.
Okay. Now, all this training, were you doing this at your CrossFit gym, or were you doing it at like the Planet Fitness?
This was I went back to Legends of Pittsburgh. So I
Okay.
went back there. I had my best buddy, and he would come out with me, and my mom would even talk to him and be like, "You better make sure you stay safe." This is and now I'm 21 years old. My mom's like, "You better keep him safe, or else I'm after you." But he was biggest support system. We would go to the gym every day, and he would push me, but in small amounts. So before my diagnosis, I had PR'd my clean at like 255. A push coming out of the hospital was a squat clean at 95. So it was once again just one of those things you're like, wow, so many steps backwards, and it took me how long to get to where I was before, and now I'm just taking those small steps again, just small steps in rebuilding.
Yeah. So, and I know that like you try to like PR your, back squat, front squat, like deadlift and like clean and jerks and stuff like that. That definitely like fries your system. So how many times do you try to PR? Like do you try to PR at all, or you just kind of keep it at like a percentage rate, like 80 or 90%?
Yeah. So I'd say relatively speaking, I work more with percentages. If I know I'm working with like higher percentages consistently, that's a PR in my book. You know what I mean? Like if those higher weights that used to be hard to move for singles gets easier, that's a PR in my book.
Okay.
Every once in a while, things do feel really good, and you go by feeling. When things are feeling good, I'll send it. I'll give it a shot. Happens, and if it works, great. If not, we'll fall down and we'll laugh trying about it at least.
Yeah. So if you have like, do you have like, I'm trying to say like, like kind of like an RPE scale of like that day of like, let's say I walk into the gym and, it's my MS is like acting up like really bad. So I should do like an RPE of like 5 or like, or
Sure.
even lower. So like what's your whole process of like entering the gym for like that day? If you have like a bad day or a good day?
Yeah, absolutely. So realistically, I look at the workout. Depends on what we're doing for like metabolic conditioning, what we're doing for the weights. I try my hardest to at least hit the prescribed percentages. Like if those are prescribed, great. If I hit those, great. If I need to back off a little, I know. It's
Mhm.
we'll start down with warming up at least, see where things are feeling, and really just like with how the muscles work or don't work, whatever it may be. My biggest thing is my joints. If you don't have your muscles turning on around the knee joints or the ankle joints and the hips, and you're doing snatches, you're now just blowing out your knees. You aren't having the muscles support it. So there's really no point to try to hit your heaviest weight. I'd rather hit a weight where I can feel muscles supporting my joints and maybe move a little slower, just so that way I know I'm not blowing out my knees and going to need a knee replacement in like 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
So that's definitely a big concern of mine is especially from the waist down. So a lot of like leg movements, and they talk about that because they say the further the muscles are from the brain, the harder it is for the signals to get down there. They kind of already weaken naturally by the time they get down there. So then adding MS into the factor definitely makes a huge difference. So I'll look at the weights of the conditioning as well and say, you know what, today's the day I can push it. Or if it's not, then I have no problem with just saying today's the day that I can move. And we're going to figure out how to adjust these weights to make sure that I'm just moving in a metabolic conditioning state there.
Okay. Now, when did you hear about the adaptive division in CrossFit?
Sure. Yeah. So that was, when it came out, they talked about the adaptive divisions back in, that would have been the first announcement, 2020, or that would have been, yeah, in 2020 when they talked about adding these new divisions, and they talked about neuromuscular. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I have a neuromuscular condition, I am affected by all these things. do I qualify? You know, like, am I Ron Burgundy? You know, so I ended up, I shot out an email because the biggest thing for me with these divisions is they're a massive opportunity for everyone to compete, everyone to feel included. And the one thing I would never want to take away from that is the inclusivity and the fairness across the board with it. So I did send an email to CrossFit. I didn't know it was Alec at the time, but I just inquired about it and said, hey, here's my story. Here's where I'm at. And here's what I've gone through. Out of all fairness through divisions, like, is this something I qualify for? And then they said, yeah, it's something you qualify for. So that's when I said, okay, well, looks like we're going to do this. And I signed up for the neuromuscular division for the open. And that's where the story gets crazy. You know, you end up going in, the workouts get released one by one. And, you know, as the open goes, you do them, you submit the score. And I ended up winning the CrossFit Open in 2021 in the men's neuromuscular division, brand new division. Super cool, super awesome. And we thought that was the end. You know, and they're talking about like, oh, quarterfinals, you know, semifinals, everything that they did for all the other divisions. And, you know, me and a couple of the guys, you know, we're looking at the leaderboard. We find each other on Instagram, start talking, like just getting to know each other. You know, it's really cool now to not only find people with neuromuscular conditions, but neuromuscular conditions in athletes. You know, the same thing that is not just help them physically, but mentally break through on their condition and fight that every single day. There's some really, really great guys in the division, and I love our division. Honestly, it's no one else understands our division like neuromuscular people. You know, you look at somebody in the upper extremity or the lower extremity, and you clearly see their, you know, whether it be a leg's gone or they have like a malformation in the arm, whatever it may be. It's like, okay, cool, I see that. You don't see what's going on inside our bodies. You know, you don't see like how our systems are fried or how a workout makes half of our body shut off. And it's just only something that other neuromuscular athletes can really understand and appreciate. So it's kind of cool to have that connection with people who do understand what you go through as an athlete with that. But back to my point, there was, we thought it was the end. We were talking, thinking it was done and over with. We email CrossFit and talk to them, and they say, yeah, at this time, you know, it was great. And as more participation shows up, we're sure there's going to be extra levels, this and that. And we're like, oh, okay, cool, that's fine. And then April 28th, I remember specific, I want to say it was 28th. I remember literally staring at the Instagram post for like a minute with my mouth just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what is this? And it said CrossFit had enough participation in the open in 3 of the adaptive divisions that the top 5 of each division, men and women, will be going to Madison to compete for the title of fittest on earth. And they said the following categories: upper extremity division, lower extremity division, and wait for it, neuromuscular division.
Very cool. So your mouth probably like dropped. You're like, oh my God, like I can't, like, am I going?
Yes.
Am I actually going to be there? Like,
Yep.
is this how it works? So, when you got that email saying that, hey, you know, you got invited to Madison, like what were you doing? Like, what were you setting up for? You know, like how, like, what was the process going through, like that time when you got that email to actually getting to Madison?
Yeah. So let's getting the email just to get an invite to Madison. That was some of the most stressful. Like, that was 4 weeks. 4 weeks since the announcement. 5 weeks. 6 weeks. I remember it was like around mid-June. And so, yeah, it would be about 6 weeks after the announcement that we finally got an invite. So really, really funny story there is that, you know, we're all talking like, oh my God, did you get an email yet? Did you get something yet? No, didn't get anything. We start having to like fill out more paperwork that we're getting from CrossFit saying like, hey, we need like verification on your diagnosis, like what's going on, because, you know, out of all fairness, they want to make sure everything is set. So we had to get like paperwork from doctors, stuff of that nature, just to show legitimacy. But then on top of that, they wanted us all to submit 21.3 and 4 on video. Now, the thing is, when you don't expect to go to the CrossFit Games, there's one thing you don't do with your workouts, and that's video your open workouts. So I had to re-video 21, 3, and 4. And the worst part was I had COVID
Oh,
before this whole thing came out that they said, we need this video. I was bedridden, for 2 weeks, and then a third week of finally just moving. I went back to the gym and I worked out for 8 minutes and I died. And I couldn't work out any longer than 8 minutes. And I said, we're done. That's it. Check. Day 1. Went back day 2, moved a little bit better. Check. Day's over. We're just going to keep adding back into it. I'm familiar with this, being out of it and then just building back in. And that's when we get the email. And it's like, all right, my third session back from the worst illness I ever had. I have to give it my absolute best. CrossFit Games. That's fine. That's fine. Really, everything's fine. This isn't hard. What are you talking about? Like, where's the challenge here? So it was a challenge, to try to replicate those scores. I think in the end, I was like 9 seconds off from my Metcon time and maybe like 10 pounds under my lift, still put me in first on those scores there. So I think the lifts, maybe Sly had me beat by 10 pounds because he's just so freaking strong. But
yeah. Yep.
Overall, yeah, that was kind of where we ended there. And wouldn't you know, June 16th, around that time, got the official invite, accepted it immediately, was like, yep, I'm going. Like, this is it. And it still felt almost unreal. They even had a point that they said, I guess, I don't know what it was, but there was something to a degree that I think they were trying to find any falseness whatsoever, because they even said in the final email, if you accept this invite, there is a screening that will happen when you get here. And if this screening somehow disqualifies you, then you will not be competing. So to think that even after I accepted this invite and paid to go, even you book the hotel, you take the ride, flight over, whatever it is, there's a chance you might knock on the doors of Madison and they're going to say,
Nope,
you got to go home. So that was only on my mind the entire time.
So what was their screening process?
They didn't do one. It was, that's why I feel like it was like a ghost hunt. You know what I mean? Like they were trying to scare somebody who maybe they felt just they didn't have enough evidence or anything that was of like a legitimate, condition. Because when we got there, it was check in, here's your name tag, go to your locker, get your stuff, and that was it. It was a totally normal process, which was a huge relief. Don't get me wrong, because like even though like I have a condition and I have issues, the whole thing in my mind is like, well, what are they gonna do? Like what is gonna happen with this?
Very cool. So when you're at Madison, what were some of your, well, I mean, you got to meet other athletes, which is pretty cool. And you had like a tight knit community of the neuromuscular division. What were some of like the highlights of you being at Madison other than winning? So like, what were the other ones that like, was it meeting somebody? Was it like gaining new friends? Like what was it for you?
Yeah, there was a lot of things. Like looking back at Madison, those were the 3 best days of my life. If I could relive those 3 days, first experience was hands down the best right from the start. You felt like a true athlete as you got guided by a person.
That's really cool.
Like with your name on it, your last name on this plaque, and it said who you were. It said Noble CrossFit Games 2021. And I remember I took a video, I was pointing, I was like, that's my name. Like I'm up, like, like that's me. So went in there, just the whole like uniform fitting and everything. That was super cool. Just a really fun experience to kick it off with and make you feel like a true athlete. This is a real deal. And going through that whole process was a lot of fun. I even remember we got back to the hotel room after we got everything. And my coach was like, don't forget, you still have a whole competition. I was like, oh yeah, it's not over. Like that's just the first part. But it was really neat doing that. And then from there, just the whole legitimacy between having the athlete briefing, getting to hear the workouts, like just getting pumped up for them, like that feeling before you step on that field and you're like, wow, I am the real deal. Like I am doing this, and this has been a dream of mine for years now, and I never thought it would happen. And before me, my dreams are coming true. Yeah, it was one of the coolest things through the whole part of it. We had some really nice, tight knit moments with the neuromuscular group. You know, we would come together, like we would pray. That was kind of our thing, is that we would put everyone together in a group, you know, whoever was comfortable with it, whatever it may be. We would just say like a couple words of like just gratitude overall. Just every single time, every single moment we got to step on that field was a moment of gratitude, being able to be there with our abilities and just show the world who we are. You know, win, lose, in the end, as adaptive athletes, we are our own champions, because we're all here just showing the world that there's hope.
Mhm.
I never, ever, ever really cared so much for myself, but what I can do for others is be that symbol of not giving up. And there's always a way. You just have to find that silver lining and grab a hold of it and never, ever, ever let go. Like as tight as you can, hang on to that thing and find that as your like North Star, to make sure that you are always heading towards the right direction and always hang on to that hope, because there always is. You know, there is always something good to be thankful about. And throughout the CrossFit Games, there was so many moments to be thankful for. I couldn't even list them all, but I know I did get to meet my favorite female athlete, Danny Spiegel. That was like one of the coolest moments. I jumped up and down like a little girl. I was like, Danny, hi, Danny. It's like she knows me, you know, like she doesn't know me, of course, but I'm gonna act like she does anyway. And then I got a picture with her, so that was really nice just to get to meet her. But you know, I didn't want to bother anybody, because you know they're also in the game zone, you know, trying to keep their focus. But it was nice getting to meet her, and that was probably the best highlighting moment that wasn't involved with just pure competition there.
Yeah. So, what was your goals like going in? Were your whole plan was like winning the games, or what was it for you?
So that's a good question, because realistically, I had already won just getting there. You know, the fact that I got to be there was a victory. So anything beyond that was just the cherry on top. You know, it was just a little add on. But I trained very hard. Like I was doing my own programming at that time. I would get up in the morning. I would do a certain series of like cardio exercises between different machines, stuff of that nature. And then I would go ahead, go to work, do my thing. And then I would head back to the gym and I would work out again, do like an entire class workout, whatever that may be that I programmed for the day, working out, you know, 2 times a day, getting everything done. And it was a lot of hard training. So I had high expectations for myself, but I will never, ever, ever say I'm going into something winning, because I don't want to give myself the satisfaction thinking that it's happening, because then you slow down.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I act like I am in last place fighting for first every single time. And that's where we just see what you got.
All right, very cool. So, what were some of the favorite workouts that you had?
My absolute favorite had to be, I want to say it was event 4. It was our first event coming into day 2. It was for time, 63 calories on the bike erg, 21 toes to bar, 21 double dumbbell squats with 35s. I want to say it was an 82-foot bear crawl, and then another 21 sandbag squats with a 100-pound sandbag, and then another 82-foot bear crawl. Now, the reason why this chipper style workout was my favorite was I suck at machines. Like, I'll be honest, like machines, because it's such a high energy output, that is one thing that truly fries my system, is I have to be highly conscious and aware of what output I'm giving, to where my body doesn't just completely shut down.
Yep.
Well, I was the very last person off of that bike by like, I'm talking, the first person probably got off at least a minute ahead of me, at least a minute. And then I got off as the final person. And I say I was still like 30 seconds behind the second to last person to get off the bike. Then I hit the toes to bar. Boom, I'm broken. I hit the dumbbell front. unbroken. Make my first bear crawl, get to that sandbag, 2 sets, got down with those 21 squats, make my way to the finish line, and I ended up winning that event. So that was like just a really cool moment of almost just like the self-awareness of my body, like saying, hey, I know that if I go out too hot on this bike, I'm gonna die. Like the rest of this workout is just not gonna happen. So that was a really, really cool moment of just self-awareness, knowing that my body was going to go ahead and adapt accordingly by taking it easier on the bike to excel in the other regions of that workout there.
Very cool. Awesome. And after, when did you realize you were actually going to win the games?
At the end of day 2. At the end of day 2 was 2 events left. I did the math and I just had to show up. If I just showed up and came in dead last in both workouts, I still would have won the games. So at that point, you could sleep a little easier at night. But by no means did I take the gas off the pedal. Pedal off the gas, foot off the gas pedal. That's the phrase. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
I was like, something doesn't sound right there. Foot off the gas pedal there. Those last 2 events were awesome. And also the first event of the day was a nightmare.
Was it the deadlift one for you guys?
That was on day 1, the deadlift one, but this was the double under one when they told us we're doing double unders on turf.
Oh, that's right. I remember you talking about that. I was when I was doing some research on you, I remember you were talking about how you were doing double unders on turf, and it was like such a hard time for you to even do that.
Oh my God. Well, you get the special rope. I have an RPM rope, and that's such a thin wire. And now you're trying to slap it twice against turf, which is, gonna cause a lot of drag. And I was doing double unders like you're not supposed to do double unders, like biggest jump, tucking my knees, like hardest flail with the arms just to get it going. And I was like, this is taking so much energy. And I think the biggest set of double unders we had there was 75. And I was like, this is like, I was like, this is the hardest set of double unders I ever did in my life. So that event was a nightmare just trying to figure that one out. Looking back, I do have like a second rope that's a little heavier wire. And I feel like I would have tried that, maybe just to see if it caused less drag, or if I found a way to tighten the rope up so that way I didn't have it hit the ground at all. That'd be, another option. But man, that turf with double unders was just, whew.
Yeah, I've actually done it before. So I've done it on it, but the heavier rope still does the same thing. So really? I'm thinking, I think that even with the heavier rope, when it hits the ground, it gets a quicker rebound because it's so heavy.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, it has a rebound, not as quick as like the thinner ropes, but at least you definitely do get a bounce back with it, because you pretty much get rubber on the turf, so it bounces up, and so that's why it should get your feet tripped.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, that would be. Whew. Yeah, I didn't. When did you practice that? When did you try that?
So I was a trainer at a gym. I was a personal trainer a while back too. So and so there's the gym that I have, they actually have a turf field inside the gym, and so that's when I would do the jump roping there. But they didn't have like the they didn't have like the tires, the shredded tires on there. It was just like straight AstroTurf, and it was so annoying just to try to do jump ropes.
Yeah, I can see that thing getting caught there all the time.
Yeah, and I'm pretty good at double unders too. And so me just like having issues like the whole time, and it was just like, okay, I know it's not me. It's definitely this turf. So I did the heavy rope. I had like the thinner rope, and it was both had the same issue.
Wow, that's nuts. So now I know. So that's some good advice, So that way I don't think, oh, I got this heavier rope, now it's going to make it better. So
no, not really. It's not.
Yeah. Wow.
So after day 3, after the last workout, what was going through your minds after like all of the CrossFit Games was over? You won, like, what was going through your head?
So actually, like, the whole award ceremony was great. It was really cool. Like, I can't believe this happened, but it was hot. Like, we were in this bubble of a tent type deal where they were having the awards ceremony. and we had just like finished doing all these workouts. And I remember like a lot of the neuros were crashing like hard. So many people just like smushed together between the adaptive divisions, the masters divisions, the teens divisions, all just getting ready for their awards ceremony. And then you have all the people inside the bubble too, who are there trying to watch, you know, the awards ceremony, the big TV, what's going on with events. And that thing was just retaining heat so much. I remember like I ended up actually the second after I got off the podium, I went to the medic bay. I got pulled away because I was starting to like have this systematic shutdown. I was just so on fire. My body was starting to shut down and fall asleep. They were like checking my heart rate. It was dropping fairly low. Like I think it was down to like 40 beats a minute.
Wow.
It was getting low, which I mean, you know, working out, like relatively, I have a lower heart rate, but 40 beats per minute was low. So my body was very much shutting down. So, you know, as much of a glorious moment as it was, I also was slightly dying, just slightly. It was definitely, it was still like a very, very great moment, you know, standing up there on the podium with the other two guys who were up there with me. It was just a really good time. Just saying we did it. You know, it wasn't even the fact that I was on the podium winning. It was that we were on the podium because this thing is completed. You know, we made history as the first, you know, neuromuscular, upper extremity, lower extremity, all the adaptive divisions made history as these first people to get to open a whole new world to
Yep.
it's everywhere, whether it be, oh my God, I'm an adaptive athlete and I really can like give a big shot at this, or I've never even stepped into a box and there's these people who understand what I'm going through to a degree, and there's no reason why I can't make that first step into some sort of fitness, whatever it may be.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So, do you think that adaptive athletes should get a little bit more recognition at all at the CrossFit Games, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah, honestly, and we joke about this with the guys all the time, at least the neuromuscular guys. Once again, it kind of comes back to like you can't see what's wrong with us, so we kind of just say that we're the local scaled comp that just got out to make it to the games.
That's
You can't see it, you know, you can't see what's going on inside our bodies. So I remember people were asking on like the YouTube live feeds, they're like, what's neuromuscular? And there people just don't know. And you know, you can't blame them because that is like I said, you know, you look at upper extremity, lower extremity, it's very clear and defined where there's some sort of issue, whereas or adaptation. Whereas you look at us and you're just like, well, what's wrong with them? You know, like they just look like average human beings, nothing's going on. So, you know, it's to say that as neuromuscular adaptive athletes, we feel we kind of get like pushed off to the side because there's no camera for it. You know, like what's the point of picturing someone who looks completely average like myself, and saying like, hey, this is a neuromuscular athlete, like, and he's gone through so much, you know, it's almost like we feel sidelined, so to speak, just because we're not pretty, you know, we don't we, the picture to make it look like we actually have anything wrong with us, so it's or any type of adaptation, so it's a little unfortunate there, but you know, it is what it is. You know, I do this for fun, I do this for my health. In the end, like if I get, you know, to help others along the way and I get to show them, you know, what I've been through, that's great. I would love to share my story with as many people as possible. But unfortunately, I feel that because I don't have a certain look of adaptation that, you know, my story gets sidelined.
yeah. I mean, I could see that. What speaking about your stuff getting sidelined, what are some of the biggest pet peeves of people with that don't understand MS?
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Like I have people who will reach out to me and say that I am unfair in competition. They will say that I am not as disabled as other people, so I don't belong in the division. Uh, so it does it hurts to a degree to know what I have been through and what I've fought through to get to where I am, to have people reach out to me and say, you don't belong here. So it makes it hard on me as an athlete, especially, like I've never been a selfish person by any means. I always try to give back to others. I mean, I'm a trainer. My job is to give back to everybody and to
Yep.
help lives, whether it be through training, whether it be through, competing in CrossFit and just being that symbol of hope, showing there's always a better way in life. So to have people almost judge me to a degree before getting to know me and think ill of me, it's never the best feeling in the world, but it is what it is. You have to, on the other side, there are a lot of people who reach out to me and are like, thank you. Like there's people who I've met, like even across the country, out in other countries, they'll reach out to me and be like, I just read your story. Like, it's absolutely amazing what you've gone through. Or they'll introduce themselves as like a new MS person or a new neuromuscular person. And they're like, thank you. Like, just thank you for showing me that there is a way and there is a hope. And ask me like questions, whatever it may be, whether it be like treatments or things that I've done personally to help adapt or certain symptoms. How do I fight through them? And it's really nice to have that appreciation, to a degree, and be able to do why I do this. It's all about just helping others. I really, really, in the end, I win, I lose in the competition. That's fine. Like either way, that's fine. It's just knowing that I am able to help others realize that they do have the potential to do things. That's what it's all about. That's really why I do this.
Yeah. I always think as well, if like people give me bad comments, is like, what's excuse me, what's going on in their life to be writing, a part of my French, a shitty comment? Like, is it really that bad to like bash down on other people? That's why like if someone writes a nasty comment, like I don't care.
Sure.
So it's not worth my time going back to that person and typing like, going on a whole list of like, hey, this is why I said it, this is why I did it, blah blah blah. It's not worth it, because they have they're set in their ways and they're not going to change.
Right. Yeah.
So that's my theory when it comes to nasty comments. And I don't put nasty comments down. There's no need to.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's like, if you don't, I mean, it's the old standard. Like, you don't have anything nice to say, like, just don't say it.
exactly. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end. So I do have some questions, like final questions. So do you have any goals for the rest of the year?
Yeah. Honestly, right now, the number one goal is semifinals. I'm in semifinals. That starts June 2nd through 5th. Goal is to place top 5. We place top 5, we punch that ticket to Madison. That is the number one goal. I don't look ahead. I look at the task at hand and what needs to be done. So every single day now, it is training. It is first part of the workout, check. Second part of the workout, check. And we're going to keep doing that process until we get to semifinals. And then we're going to pound the heck out of semis. That is literally the goal. It is one step at a time. I never like to look too far ahead into the future when it comes to these kind of things, because there's so many variables. Like by the time June 2nd rolls around, how's my condition going to be? Like, am I going to be super affected that weekend by something? There's so many different variables when it comes to competing. I take it one day at a time, and I just make sure that I'm checking off the list that every single thing that I do, I'm putting my absolute best effort into. So first goal, semis, make it into the top 5.
So do you have any goals like that are not CrossFit related?
Goals that are not CrossFit related. We talking like full family life, like what's going on, like
Whatever you want, whatever your goals are for the year.
Yeah, for the year. I did get this new position in my current job that I have. I did finally work towards like a head training position in a fitness studio that it's been a long time coming. Ever since my parents' garage, like I said, I knew to some degree I wanted to do this, and to find out that I finally got it as my main job has been super awesome. Realistically, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at in the company, and I know there's going to be room for growth. So just doing my best in that job currently would be great. I guess it kind of relates with CrossFit. So we'll say it's like a CrossFit goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll give that to you. So
Okay, all right, cool. I wouldn't mind doing more things like this. You know,
yeah.
getting to go places and talk. You know, getting to speak about my experiences, whatever it may be, whether it's, you know, for, you know, this podcast, whether it's like something with CrossFit itself, um, whether I can work with a company, you know, like whatever it may be, you know, I'm not saying like Nike, Reebok, whatever it may be, something of that sort, just to be a better physical representation for these adaptive divisions. Kind of how we were talking before, that I feel that the neuromuscular divisions get sidelined.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you of any neuromuscular athlete that is sponsored by a company, like a big sport company of Nike, Reebok, GoRuck, Adidas, Under Armour, whatever it may be. I just don't feel that they have any sponsorship. So to help find equality across the board would be super cool in some shape or form. Along with that, just expanding. You know, we have all these doors that are being opened for these new athletes, and they may have not a single idea what brand to get, you know, like what to look for in a
Yep.
and stability is your issue, because that's where you need adaptations. It would be really cool to be able to just help represent our division better and just expand it and open the gates even more to not only make it more inclusive in CrossFit, but more inclusive in the world.
Okay. All right. I like that. Where I have something to tell you after this, you know, recording. So they may want to consider doing, but we'll talk about that after. So, what is your favorite book?
My favorite book. So right now I am reading the book, The Daily Stoic. I don't know if you ever heard of The Daily Stoic or not,
Yep.
but it's basically, you know, as you know, so you've heard of it. It has those life lessons, 1 page a day. I suck at reading. I'll be straight up honest. I suck at reading and I want to be good at reading. So I'm trying really hard with this book here. And it has actually opened a bit of a doorway for reading for myself. So the Daily Stoic gives me my daily lesson, kind of a nice thing to reflect upon, things to think about on my progress in life and what to do to better myself, not just in life, but as a human. You know, I feel there's so many people nowadays that they lead with like hate, anger, jealousy, selfishness, that if they just work on small steps of change with their mindset, they can become a better person, which in turn you make one person become better. They then can reflect themselves onto other people. And it just slowly will start to make, as cliche as it sounds, the world a better place. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people are just kind to each other and can have genuine conversation with strangers and not feel like it's a weird thing. Um, so that's my one book I'm working on now. On top of that, I'm also working on a book called Atomic Habits. So this book was recommended to me by my boss, and it's one of the two books I'm working on through this cycle right now. I actually really like this book because it challenges you to develop habits that represent your lifestyle, not just like, hey, you go to work, you do this, you do that, and that's a habit. No, it's what do these habits physically do to develop you as a character and as a person. So those are the two books that I'm working with right now.
Okay, cool. So, this one's a little deep. So, let's
Okay.
just say it's your last day on Earth and
Mhm.
you're with your family. How do you want people to know you as?
If it is my last day on earth, the one thing that I hope that people know me as is the guy who gave everything to help everyone else become better than they thought they ever could be.
Okay, I love that. Love that. Awesome. So, last question: where can people reach out to you if they have any questions with like MS or like how to deal with MS if they have like a family member? Like, what's the best route of reaching out to you?
Yeah, so the best route, you know, I keep my Instagram as completely open. You know, I don't keep it as private because I like the messages. You know, I like getting those positive messages of feedback. So my, you know, my handle there underscore Verticus underscore. So that would be the best. So that's a nickname. That is a nickname from high school actually, because you know, in history there was Spartacus, right? And he had this huge idea of leading the gladiators out and like rebelling against the norm of them having to be slaves and be treated poorly. So, it's kind of interesting because that was a nickname in high school just because I had some muscles, and now it's kind of funny that moving forward, I do represent something along that line of being outside the norm, like representing something bigger than myself, which is really, really cool. But that is, so that, needless to say, that is probably the number one way. People can always feel free to reach out with me with that. I have no problem with chatting with them or give them my number as well if I, have a good conversation and we just need to follow up on some things. I'm a pretty open book. I try to, I accept everybody. Like I like people. I'm a people person. So
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for doing this. I really do appreciate you taking the time. And this is, Jesus, this is a long one. So which is fairly fine with me. I'm okay with it. So, well, thank you very much for doing this. And I would love to have you back on maybe after semis or even like after the games or whatnot and kind of get your experience again on that.
That would be super awesome. I really appreciate you having me on here, Tom.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good one.
Hey, thanks. You too.